And And that music gets me every time. Yeah. Hey, everybody, what's going on? Look and see who we got here in chat tonight. Look at all the good crew. We got a good crowd here, Logan. We got Pale Riders with us. We got Gonzo the Great. I know that guy. We got Fred with us. Yeah, Rivers. Fred's here with us. Rivers. I saw Matt Nerdy on here earlier. Yeah, he's there. Yeah, cool. Yep. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. This is Dungeon Class. Of course, Dungeon Class, we share critical points to level up your D&D game. I want to remind everybody that the super chat is available on here. Should still be on here. So should see a dollar sign down at the bottom there. If you want a super chat, any super chats or super stickers, which I'm not really familiar with super stickers, but any of those you do will help benefit the channel to help us grow. Unfortunately, things cost money and all that good stuff. But I did want to report that thanks to people giving some donations, Patreon, all that kind of stuff, that we have bought some equipment. One of which I know one here, I think one over at your house. We're using some nice Logitech webcams. So we've got legit webcams now. So you can see every blemish on our face and all that. That's all important stuff. And we've also got lighting for our videos, which Gonzo and I are trying not to blind ourselves on. And Logan, I don't think you've had the opportunity to be blinded by those yet. But
I'm blinded right now, Mark.
Oh, you are right now? Yeah.
We're good.
So you're working on your tan. That's good.
Yep.
Yes, that's right. He's in the studio right now, so he's getting the benefit of that nice tan. Yeah, that's nice heat coming off there. So thank you to everybody that's given. I appreciate that. That's going to help us. Hopefully, we got better content for you. We got these little mic stands and mics and things like that. So little by little, we're trying to get more legit. So that's where we're trying to go.
And, the biggest way we can be legit is with all of our wonderful fans.
Amen to that.
Comment, subscribe, all those things. Hit the bell.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Pale Rider. Yeah, we're moving up. So some of you may have caught us on Gonzo and I were guests on Nerdarchy's show on Wednesday. So we were doing that was exciting.
Awesome.
Met one of our idols. That was nice hanging out with Dave. He's such a great guy. So just FYI, if he seems like a really nice, fun guy to hang out with, he is. Yeah, he's pretty much what you see is what you get. So it was really good. So I see some people asking in chat. And I thought I would add a little bit there about how Gonzo's doing. Yep. I thought it was important to share just real quick, Logan, before we get into this. Some good news. Gonzo went in for a CT scan, and they said that some of the tumors have shrunk already after 2 rounds of chemo. So yeah, we'd like to hear that. That means the chemo and the prayers are working. So I know several people have reached out. It's been really awesome that the outpouring from our viewers coming out. They're chiming in, telling us that they're praying for Gonzo and all, and it's working. So I know I speak on behalf of Gonzo. Thank you so much for that, and I know that means a lot to you, Logan. He's in chat right now, so he's in there. He's kicking. He was in our game the other night. Well, he didn't really play so much. He was feeling kind of poorly when we played the other night, but he has good days and bad days. But he's looking good. He's a little thinner, a little less hair, which I haven't really noticed. I mean, really, it looks about the same to me.
I think the biggest thing is that since he shaved his facial hair, his beard hasn't grown back. It's probably been the first time in my life I've ever seen my dad without a 5 o'clock shadow or some kind of goatee or something. So,
honestly, when I saw him without his beard, it was eerie. It was like, dude, it's like walking back in time because he literally looks like I remember him as a kid. So it's really eerie to see a person without their beard and actually he's back to his old playing weight. I think back when he was at that age too. So that's a hard way to look younger, I have to say. So I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But appreciate everyone reaching out. That's been great. Also, I'm going to point out down in our show notes or down in the description, we'll have a link to if anyone wants to give to a GoFundMe. I know Gonzo is going to shoot me for saying that, but there is those hospital bills do count. They do add up, and we are so thankful of the outpouring that people have donated, and it's really, really great. So that's it's awesome to see people care. People that don't even know you hardly. I've seen people that I recognize in their giving, but there's a ton of people I've never heard of or know, and they're probably outright strangers on there giving to help. And that's, in times like this, when everything's going on in the world, it's kind of cool to see people come together for a good cause. So that's good stuff. All right, so we're here to talk about teaching to new players, and so I think that's rumor has it that you've had a little kind of experience with that. Apparently, I heard a rumor that they know about D&D in Utah. Is this a true statement?
Yeah. I went out to Utah for school. Go Wolverines, Utah Valley University.
Wolverines.
UVU Wolverines. It is pretty.
So a person named Logan is going to a school where they have Wolverines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so obviously I was the coolest kid in school. But, right. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. But I had some friends that either had played D&D in the past, or they had heard about it, always wanted to play, but never got a chance to. And I put together a little group, and I had friends that I played with from work. I had friends that I played with from school. I had friends I played with from church groups. And I ended up teaching a lot of people and spreading D&D out faster than COVID out there.
How many would you say is a lot?
A lot? Probably the most I had teaching them for the first time at the same time was like 6 or 7.
Whoa.
So it was kind of baptism by fire.
6 or 7 new players, huh?
Yeah. And then I had my main group were my 3 friends that I made out there. And it started out just in my apartment, just the 3 of us. And they're like, oh, yeah, this could be a cool thing we should try. And we ended up playing for 2 years, a couple of different campaigns and stuff while I was out there.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. Good. It was a lot of fun.
And I understand that you taught some people and then they went off and kind of started their own groups.
Yeah.
Some?
Yeah. It just kind of spread. And I have one friend who I played with, and then he picked it up really quickly. And he played it with some of his friends that he had known for his whole life. And then I had another friend who would play with other friends that he made at his school because we went to different schools. So it's cool. It's cool to see, just kind of something that I didn't consider myself any kind of professional. All I had were, some books and some dice and just a desire to play. And the things that we'll talk about tonight, hopefully will help anyone feel confident enough to help introduce people to D&D and to the wonderful experiences that it can bring.
Yeah, absolutely. We wanted to do this show because one of the things that comments we got that people, it was kind of shocking sometimes. So we had people, especially people that have paid like 3.5 and they paid it back in the day, and maybe they still play even today. And we mentioned in some of our videos about playing with family, and we get these messages that are like, we never really thought about playing with my family. I didn't think about introducing it to my kids. And I'm like, really? Yeah. Now, maybe it's the difference between 3.5 versus 5e. I don't know. But it's kind of an interesting thing. So what we like to see is when people would say, I'm going to try that. And we're like, yeah. So that's kind of part of the month. There's a lot of reasons we started our channel, but one of them was we wanted to try to get families to play. We really feel like there's no better way to draw your family together or spend good time with family. Well, there's maybe other good ways, I guess, but this is one of the best ways to spend time with family. And draw closer, but also with your friends. And you go out there to school and you meet new people and you teach them a game, and they start to become a pretty tight-knit friendship, which could kind of end up kind of being like family, which is pretty awesome. So so we like to hear that. So what would you say? What are some, someone comes to you and says, oh, I don't know, that's too complicated. There's just too much to learn. I don't know if I could teach somebody. What are some things you'd recommend to people that are trying to get started and want to teach someone to play?
I think, the first thing I think before anything is just be confident in that D&D is cool. Be confident that it's fun. And if people have heard about it, If people are talking about it, if they want to play it and they want to try it, like it's gonna be awesome.
Right.
We kind of live in a weird time where nerd culture is becoming like really, really cool.
Right.
Like I remember growing up in elementary school and stuff, and like I'm sure it's different for you and dad and stuff, you know, back in the Stone Age, but
yeah, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, we took time
yeah.
to play in between running from T-Rex. Yes.
Yeah, and your comic books are on stone tablets and stuff.
Yeah.
But like it's almost kind of like, oh, I love superheroes, I love comic books, and it's almost kind of nerdy and almost kind of, you don't talk about it with everybody, you know, maybe your other nerd friends that understand.
Right.
But now, like everybody loves Marvel, everybody loves Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. Like what? Guardians of the Galaxy? Are you kidding? But everybody knows it. Yeah, it's really in the hip, and it's really mainstream. And I think D&D is one of those things that's kind of, you know, before been maybe just had a different, like, oh, not everybody would be into this, but now like we got people in Hollywood playing. Like one of my favorite games I watched on YouTube was Terry Crews. When you look at Terry Crews, you don't really think D&D, but he had an awesome game he did with Matt Mercer.
Yep.
I mean, like anyone can play, anyone can have fun, anyone can enjoy it. Yeah. So know that it's cool, trust that it's awesome, and just share that enthusiasm. And it's kind of surprising how many people will open up to it and how many people will be intrigued, you know?
Right. I agree 100%. So, and you're right. There's a lot of curiosity, obviously with things like Stranger Things, you know, what are those kids playing in the beginning? But even going back to like E.T., they're playing Dungeons and Dragons and E.T. It's been around for quite a bit, but it's just really starting to be in vogue, and nerd is cool now. And so nerds are running the world. So it is kind of cool, but you're right. There's some built-in curiosity. People have heard of it. And a lot of people have some preconceived notions, but I like today people don't necessarily think, oh, that's a game for nerds. You know, they're willing to try. And actually like Gonzo and I've talked about before, the idea that you're going to get away from the electronics for a bit and go hang out in person with people and play around a table. We're going to socialize again. Whoa, what a crazy concept, you know? And so it's hard to compete with that being in person versus playing, you know, Call of Duty or something. It's just not the same. So, all right. So someone comes up to you and says, I want to know about this D&D thing. I heard you play. Can you, how do I get started?
Well, one of the first things, especially with my friends, when I first introduced them, I had them look at the books. Like, okay, this is the player's handbook. This is the Dungeon Master's Guide. That's got kind of maybe stuff that's a little kind of next level. But I start them off with player's handbook, and if they wanted to know more about specific things, the DMG does a great job at breaking a lot of it down. Wizards of the Coast has done a lot of the work for us in explaining all the technical parts of D&D in the books. Who would have known? In the rule books, they have all the rules. and great advice for how to play the game and different things to expect. Right. So that way, what you share with them isn't so much like, okay, these are what dice are. This is hit points, and these are numbers, and this is math, which is really hard to try and, you know, word vomit out onto somebody. Right. What you can share is fun things, fun stories. Like, oh my gosh, this one game we played, like everything went crazy. We accidentally burned down a town. And one of my friends was riding around the back of a goat with guards chasing him, and everyone else was trying to sneak out the other side. It's like, what? Right. You know? So give them the books. Let that do most of the rule splaining. Yeah. And then share with them the fun things and your fun stories, because that's what we want from D&D. Not so much rules and numbers, but.
Yeah, Pale Rider had a good point. He's like, I usually tell people to start with the pre-PDF of the basic 5e rules. Yeah, some of this, and it's easy to forget sometimes that, like you mentioned, that Wizards has done a good job. They've given you some of the stuff for free to kind of get a taste for it and get started. And that's not a bad way to start. But I like your approach to looking over the book. You know, let them borrow a book. That I know as Gonzo and I were kids, the just flipping through the books and you know, couldn't wait to get that Vorpal sword. And man, I want to get that in the game, you know, and those were the kind of things that really kept us in between games or gave us the curiosity to really try different stuff, and that would be great for a new player to look at it and go, wow, there's all these possibilities. And and it can be a little overwhelming, obviously. Start talking about races and classes, and I look on your class and there's all these different choices, and what am I do? So so what would you say, what's the next step? Once they've kind of, all right, I read your book or I looked through it. Now what?
Yeah, I think the best way is just kind of start playing.
Yeah.
How just bring them in, do a session 0 where you step by step, be patient with them, create like a really vanilla character and just have them start playing. Because they're going to have questions for days, because you're going to say something like, yeah, you need your stats. You need your stats. Yeah, yada, yada, stats. Right. To them, they're like, what's a stat? What's a stat, dude? How do I get stats?
What are these numbers do?
Really simple things that maybe we wouldn't understand. And if you try to sit there and explain, well, you need this stat to affect these skills that you need to make for these checks, and this is a difficulty class. Just start playing. Put them in a situation where it's like, okay, you see a tree. Oh, can I climb the tree? Yes. Now check out your strength stat.
Yeah.
And then you have your skill with athletics. Here's a little bit of math you can do. Now roll the d20. And then through them doing it, they more or less, teach themselves how to go. They figure it out.
I think starting out playing is a good way to go. That is a good, and seeing what it's like. And they don't need to know all those numbers stuff and all right away. Those just come as you go. And sometimes some of the best ways is to just jump in. And honestly, you're brave to have a number of them who can't play, teaching them all at once. I know I had that experience with kids.
I was going to say
that was a little challenging. But same thing. I kind of went around and we just started playing. Once we got there, I gave them pre-generated sheets. So that whole rolling for stats, all that stuff was that. Then I had to worry. So we start playing and like, all right, so can I climb this tree? Like to say, can I jump on this? Well, let's go ahead and you can try. So let's roll, look on your sheet. So there was a lot of that at first. I had to go around a little bit explaining, but best that those things kind of come out in game rather than you try to explain everything up front. Can you imagine explaining all of the rules of D&D up front and then playing? That would be like, oh.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Like, think about any video game. I just like what's the very first level of any video game?
Yeah.
It's gonna be the tutorial.
Yeah, exactly. Tutorial. You gotta go to learn where the buttons are and
shoot. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So I mean, the best, and that's how you learn most games these days, is just kind of start playing it.
Yeah.
And if you had to sit down before playing, I don't know, like Halo, and read like a little manual on like all the little things that how to do, and then just be given a controller and expect to play.
Yeah, I don't think they even put those manuals in anymore. I don't think they put manuals in the video games.
It's just like a little warning, like video games are really cool. Have fun.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The old days of flipping through and who reads those things anyway? So that's a good point. That's a good point. So jump in and start playing. I think that's a good way to go, and go slow. I saw someone had mentioned, don't go too fast. Don't overwhelm them with all kinds of stuff. And I think probably the best thing is if you have some people that played in the group, that is so helpful. Oh my gosh, because they can just kind of sit next to that person and help them along. That'd be so much better than having a whole entirely new group. That'll really go. It'll slow down quite a bit. But having people that enlist some people that play. Hey, we're playing D&D. Can you come? Got some new players that kind of want to learn. And now, would you say that did your players pick it up pretty quickly, or?
I think mine did. Just in a sense that it helped that one, we were all friends already. So we all kind of knew each other, how we had inside jokes. And so there wasn't, and at least for that small group, it was just, the four of us in my apartment. I mean, like there wasn't any kind of stage fright that sometimes you could get with bigger groups. I know I played with bigger group from my friends from work. There was a little bit of like kind of sitting back and watching from some of them, like, am I allowed to do something? Am I allowed to say I want my character to do something? Because they don't want to interrupt.
Right.
They don't know. It's you almost got to kind of learn the non-spoken rules of like table etiquette and like on improv, you know, and knowing a character, because it is a game, but it's just as much role playing. It's acting.
Yeah.
You know, so it can be really intimidating. So I think, as far as to answer your question, my friends picked up the mechanics of it pretty quickly, because the other aspects of just the becoming their character and interacting with an imaginary world were already kind of dorky. One of them was in, one of us was in theater. The rest of us have played lots of games, so we are already used to the idea of embodying another character and doing crazy stuff. The chat is blowing up right now. I'm reading.
Yeah, I see this. No, I think our key grip, Carrie Gonzo, had a great point here. I liked her comment. Watching games, how she learned, that's what piqued my curiosity. Yeah, if you can watch a game, especially if you're kind of nervous about playing, I've heard, in fact, Carrie's one of those that, I'll just watch, at first. And then after a while, sometimes you just can't help jumping in and playing. And I think it's that, like you said, the etiquette and stuff. You learn that, one, you can do anything in this game. You literally can do, there's really, there's some rules here and there, but you can try anything in the game anyway. And there are some crazy things you can do. And you learn that it's okay to try that, it's okay to, and that's one thing that Gonzo and I always preach, that as a DM, on the DM side, if a player wants to try something, unless you can think of a really good reason to say no, you can go ahead and try, and we'll go ahead and roll for it, and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And that just really helps them open up, helps them try new things.
Yeah. Having those things that they try that maybe it's not the most like, instead of I go into the room, it's like, do they have a chimney in the room? Can my character Santa Claus style sneak into the chimney and listen from the chimney top and stuff? Like that's insane. But of course that would be, think of a movie. If everyone just walked into rooms and did things normally, Mission Impossible would be over in like 5 minutes. If they just walk into the bank, like we roll to hit the guards. Like,
well, and honestly,
of course they're going to go through the elevators and down the ducts with the dropping from the ceiling. It's got to be cool.
Honestly, that's the thing that people talk about the most about this game, are the crazy things that we did in the game. Yeah, you're right. If it were just ordinary garden variety, Timmy, who works in accounting, goes to work every day and comes home, and it can't be too rule heavy so that it kills the fun and the creativity. And so, and I think creativity, how do you encourage creativity?
One way that I tried to encourage my players to be creative is I just rewarded them every time they did, whether or not it succeeded.
Okay.
For example, my players were running away from some zombie horde. It had overtaken a town, and they were being kind of hunted down in this big cornfield. They had escaped the town, were going through the farms. They're in a cornfield, and they can hear the sounds of people approaching. And one of them could do like minor illusion. And so he's like looking around. He's like, oh my gosh, we need some way to distract the zombies. Right. He says, I can use minor illusion. I can make an illusion. I'm like, okay, it's a good idea. That's what illusions are for most of the time, is misleading or distracting.
Yeah.
But he wanted to make it really ridiculous. And so he did a sumo centaur covered in barbecue sauce as an illusion up where the scarecrow should be. And he wanted to, at the same time, ventriloquist, like, zombie, come and get it. And, reading this spell, it's like, I don't know if that fit in a 5x5. Like, if I could have just like pulled part of the details and like make all these things, I'm like, you know what? Just make a performance check.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and roll the dice.
Yeah.
Of course he rolls high. And of course I'm like, you know what? I could make the DC whatever, but whatever he's going to roll. Like whether or not it's convincing, it's going to pull your attention away. Right. So it made the distraction. They got out of there fine.
Right.
And that's still one of our inside jokes is zombies.
Well, and they're talking, you did right when they're talking about it later, and they still talk about it. If you had just said, well, I'm sorry, the rules say you can't do that. It's because of this, and this. And you just killed that, and now that person may not want to volunteer some crazy idea later.
Yeah,
because you just killed that. You killed that vibe right there. So
yeah.
no, well done. Yeah, that's what you want to encourage. You want to encourage that creativity. You want to foster it. You don't want to squash it if you can. Now,
yeah.
If they say I want to fly up to the sun and grab it and pull it down, and you got to be, there has to be some reason in there. But if it's kind of okay, I think you could kind of try to do that. And yeah, that's good. Excellent. D&D. Well, actually, Fred wants to join in here. All right. All right. I'll see if I can see the link there, Fred. And one thing I wanted to hear to comment on that. So I'm a Pale Rider.
Sorry,
he's a little bit tough.
Your elf is dead.
Yeah, I having played with kids, I knew I didn't want to freak them out too much and make them go sit in the corner. So Pale Rider's a little harsh. She's a little harsh to play with. That's a little bit. You might be a kinder, gentler DMing with kids. That brings up a good point. Maybe you're not. Maybe you allow even more crazy creativity out of kids. So that's a good point. I like that, Pale. Very nice. Yeah. Well, what about what about making it fun? So how do you make the game fun for new folks, do you think?
At least from my experience, they've been able to do that themselves. These guys, like the friends that I've been able to play with, they're already so funny, so awesome. It's easy. There's a reason that I love hanging out with them and I love playing games with them. They're already naturally funny and really cool. And I think if you're gonna sit down and play D&D with your friends, already, like, the more you throw in inside jokes and the more you allow them to be the people who you naturally are friends with, then they'll make it fun and you guys will be great.
Right.
I think allowing, rewarding them, encouraging their creativity, allowing them to try things and be flexible with success. Because, if you're playing with a new player and they want to try like messing with a guard,
right,
and it's going terribly, and 5 minutes into the game with this new player, they're gonna get arrested or attacked by a guard. Maybe you kind of, like Deus Ex Machina kind of thing, and just like, all of a sudden you see kind of like, help, stop, thief in the background in the marketplace, and you see a commotion, and like the guard turns around, and it's like you can either try to stop the robber, you can get away,
right?
Just kind of offer them little moments to where it's not all on them, at least at first. Later on, if they've played for a while, then let them get thrown in prison 5 minutes in the game, because that brand new campaign, jailbreak.
Right. I see there's something in the chat there that we need.
Baby,
yeah. So there's a super chat. Yeah. So look at this. This is from Gonzo. Gonzo has a good question though. He didn't have to pay to ask that question, but apparently he wants to know, is there poop above Logan's head? Why? Yes, that would be poop. That's left over from one of our shows. Yeah. If you've not seen our adventure challenge video where we it was very poop themed. Kind of went that way. We're not above potty humor at Dungeon Class. So yeah. To answer the question, that is indeed, and it is a carryover from our one of our videos there. And man, just like that, you went off focus. You freaked it out.
Oh no! I broke everything.
You broke the camera.
Okay,
that's weird.
Let's see.
It's autofocus. That's interesting. Oh wow! Whoa!
There it is.
There you go.
I just pushed some buttons. There we go.
Push some buttons, make it till it goes away. That's good. That's a good move. All right, so chat. I said I saw some good ideas here. Where's the toilet brush? Yeah. So those of you, if you've not caught it, you got to go catch our challenge video. There's we did some interesting. So just to those if you've not seen our challenge videos, we like to grab a bunch of random items, and Gonzo and I challenge each other to come up with an adventure in 2 minutes using random items. So last time we went and grabbed a bunch of stuff. Oh, there was an error with the link. Hold on. There was an error. So. Hold on. So yeah, we grabbed some stuff from the dollar store, and kept going there. So
I will say that the shopping montage alone from that video makes it worth watching. It's pretty sweet. Yeah, I think those challenge videos are so fun. And
so it was next level stuff there with the montages, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. While you're trying to get Fred in, I do have a little show and tell for our friends in Dungeon Class. So happy Halloween, everybody! This past weekend, hope everyone had a great time. We made Dungeon Class produced, more specifically Gonzo and my mom Carrie, our key grip, produced the coolest D&D pumpkin in the world. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Look at this guy, and it is heavy. So,
it's live, and look at that. Yes, I like that. That's very, very beholder-like.
Yep.
I particularly like that thing sticking out of its head there. That kind of looks like our logo. That's kind of interesting. Yeah. All the eyes. That's really good. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys do this every year where you paint? You paint them up.
We do. I'm trying to get it on camera. There we go.
No, you're fine.
But yeah.
In fact, just hold that for the rest of the stream. That'd be
okay. That works.
Just kidding.
That works.
Yeah. That's that was very creative.
Pumpkins every year.
Yeah.
Because in Florida, you can't carve them or they'll rot overnight. So.
Yes.
So we paint them. And when pumpkin goes dead. So
when it's 90 degrees and it's like 85 at night and 80% humidity, those things don't last too long. So I think we have a guest here. Look at this guy. Hey, all the way from New Zealand. Hey.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Logan.
How's it going there? So you want to come? You had some questions for this young lad, eh?
Oh boy. He's just laughing. He's just laughing. That's always a good sign.
I'm only laughing because I'm in the process of trying to get in and throw your link up onto my YouTube channel at the same time. And it's a little bit tricky, but I got you.
That's fun.
Nice. So you had some questions about Logan teaching people to play?
Yeah, I did actually. I actually had quite a few questions, but I was really, really happy to see that Logan clearly has a really good understanding of teaching new people. Mm-hmm. I was kind of wondering, what do you do to help people relax when they're playing the game? Because I find, unless you're playing with really close friends that you know really well and you get along with, they can sometimes be really nervous that they'll make a mistake, or that they won't be very good at the game and people won't like them. I mean, it's like social anxiety ramped up, and you just stick game mechanics behind it.
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing that I do, I think just normally, I try to diffuse situations with humor, and sometimes that backfires and gets me a hand in the back of the, smack on the back of the head from my mom. But for me, I do funny voices. So for example, in the very first game we played with my friends, they started up in this like kind of goblin cave. They were all chained up, and they could hear like the goblins ahead talking to each other. And so I gave them these funny little goblin voices and just kind of, right off the bat, started making a fool out of myself and let them know, like, it's a game. We're having fun. Yeah. Later on, I threw in my infamous old man voice. And they found this old guy who talked like this. And that helped. So for me, funny voices and just me not taking myself too seriously really helps. Because if you don't take yourself seriously as the DM or as the, kind of resident, expert for D&D, then your friends are gonna, at least in my experience, they're gonna lighten up a little bit and be like, oh, okay, if that's how he plays and he knows how to play, then I should be okay to be myself and to be funny, to try weird things, to talk in funny voices, whatever.
So there you go, Fred. Next time you try that in a game store, just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good strategy.
Yeah.
I always found that I had to do a lot of different things to get people to relax. It's much easier if you're in your own home or somebody else's home and you're dealing with adults, because they will fall back on drinking. And frankly, I find games where people drink just a little bit, not too much, are actually better than the ones where they don't drink. But you can't do that with kids. That's not an option. So I have another question, unless Mark has a question, and I'll shut up and be quiet for a little while. But
actually, someone had a question in chat there. They wanted to hear Fred's New Zealand old man voice. So, do they even have old men in New Zealand? I don't know. I've not been to New Zealand, so I'm not sure if they even have those there or not.
My voice sounds like an old man when I've been doing a live stream for about 2 hours, and I'm barely able to actually pronounce anything anymore, because I'm getting confused between trying to keep the North American accent and pronunciation happy and deal with my own language, which is slightly different. So at that point, 2 hours, I sound pretty bad.
No, fire away, Fred. I was just I thought that was a good suggestion. I kind of wanted to hear that too, but maybe next time you have a live stream, you've been on for 2 hours, and we'll listen in on that. Although someone in chat says you do Hobbit voices. Is that true? Is that because of the New Zealand reference?
That's probably just referring to New Zealand and Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies. Yeah.
So contrary to what people might think about New Zealand, they don't all go around talking like hobbits and stuff. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's right.
Wow. You guys don't actually live in holes in the ground?
Really?
No, we don't wear grass skirts. We do have underwear. There is technology here. Those things do actually happen. We still understand, that if you communicate with somebody, that it's not necessarily going to be understood by them. We understand all those sorts of things. Simple stuff.
Yeah.
No, I don't actually do voices anymore. Over time, I don't know what's happened to my voice, but it's all messed up. So I actually really struggle to talk nowadays. So I don't do voices.
Oh man, you broke your voice.
Yeah, well, either that or just too much hay fever is really bad for me, and I get mucus all the time.
Right.
So I'm constantly salt watering. So I don't do voices. I used to, of any NPC. I think the best NPC that I've ever run was apparently a unicorn. I was told, I don't know. I was terrible, but the player loved it.
You were apparently a unicorn?
Apparently,
apparently.
What else were you supposed to be?
How's a unicorn supposed to be role played? I had no idea. But the fact that I would do it was enough for them. I don't know. And I think an old troll that had lost all his teeth and couldn't regenerate and had a walker. It's one of walking frames that nice. There was no combat involved because they could have killed him, no problems. But they wanted to take him home, things like that. No, I have a question about. Usually, when I've taught in game stores, and I've done that for Dungeons and Dragons 4E, where there was mostly kids, which you were describing, and then I was doing it for the Dungeons and Dragons Adventurers League, and that was Dungeons and Dragons 5E, and there were mostly adults. And suddenly all the kids disappeared. And I was like, where did all the kids go in the stores? They're not there anymore. I don't understand what's going on. Right. I was always very gentle with how I dungeon mastered. How do you do you have the gentle approach for new players, or are you hard and fast and relatively ruthless, or pretty a stickler for the rules and everything?
I have found that, at least for me, I had to be really patient at first. Like I had to almost kind of, like I said, the very first game I did with my 3 friends, they started out with 0 equipment, locked in a dungeon, surrounded by bad guys. That was how they began the campaign, and it was pretty brutal. In the end, only one of them died. Unfortunately, I wish I could have TPK'd him. That would have been awesome.
Welcome to D&D. You all died.
Yeah.
Now, wasn't
But at
that
least
fun?
for me. But at least for me, I had to be patient because I wanted to make sure that they learned the rules and that they learned from the books. Because at least for me, before I homebrew anything, I at least want to know the rules in the books. I at least want to know how it's set up in the system before I can go around messing with everything. So I tried to keep it as close to the book as possible in the beginning. And then, but as a dungeon master, of course, if they're fighting something that's going terribly wrong, maybe it's like, oh, you hit it and it gets really wounded and it runs away. You don't have to, dive on and kill them right off the bat. You can, but I tried to stay close to the book. And then the better that they got and the more they understood, the bigger risks that I would take as a DM with maybe homebrewing things or giving them crazier encounters. I just kind of picked up the pace, but I think it didn't feel like I had to start as slow because thematically and story-wise, it started off in such a crazy location. Like the fights that they were doing, these goblins had 2 hit points. Their armor class was 10. I made it numbers-wise. I homebrewed it to where, they don't see behind the screen. They don't know that they can just, slap this goblin and it'll explode. But to them, the story and the world I tried to make for them, I tried to make it feel like I wasn't kind of holding their hand and walking with them.
Yeah, that's a great balance that you don't want to. I don't know about you, but especially even as a kid, you didn't notice as much, but as an adult, you don't like to be coddled and feel like, oh, he's really going easy on us per se.
Mm-hmm.
You want it to feel kind of lethal, and if you're a really tough guy player and you really want to look like a tough guy, but you don't want everything to just fold easily either.
Mm-hmm.
That's a terrible feeling. So that's a delicate balance to walk, that you're not making it like don't let them feel that you're helping them out when you're helping them out. That's good. That's a good point. All right. Well, you have what other great questions you have, Fred, for this young whippersnapper? I mean, he's only he just started D&D like, I don't know, what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago? No, maybe 8.
A little less.
A little less?
Yeah.
Okay. 4, 3.
Probably closer to 3 or
okay.
I think 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at this guy.
Yeah. So you're not a beginner.
No.
Not a beginner at this. Not at all.
Compared to you guys, I am.
Yeah, well, I think Mark and Gonzo got it over me. But hey, that's another story.
That's just because we're older. That's all.
Have you had some games where there's been new players at your table and you've had some experienced players at the table or at the game at the same time?
Yes.
And see, because one of the things that I would like to know what you have to say about this, very quickly, I'm just going to say, I have found that some experienced players are really good, they're really patient, understanding. Mm-hmm. You can ask them to buddy up with a new player to help them out when they need it, mm-hmm. and they're all good with it. And then there's the experienced players who know it all, and they want to explain all the rules. And when they make a mistake, they get that snarky, nasty sort of edge to them, and humiliate new players at the table. Mm-hmm. And I have had to drop on them a few times in some games to stop them doing it. Otherwise, they just can't help themselves. I'm just wondering what your experience was with that.
As far as with experienced and new players, I just did a game, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, where it was one of our friends' very first time playing D&D. And my brother Ben, who's been on the channel before, he's awesome. He was with us, and he more or less, I had him sit right next to them, and like, okay, if they have questions about how to use dice and how to do rules and stuff, like, you're right there for them. And then I think it also helped that, like, I told the party, like, okay, like, we're doing this game. No DM bullying. Everybody's on the same page. Like, I'm in charge. And it kind of helped put everyone on the same level so that the new player didn't feel like, oh, I have to like kind of be caught up to everyone else. And I just kind of could do the game, the pace that was comfortable for everyone. And when I saw that they were kind of keeping track, I sped it up so that it was still fun for everyone. I remember I did have one game I played with some friends where it was kind of the opposite, where this poor new guy is his very first time ever playing D&D, and he got steamrolled. I think he said like 3 sentences the whole 2 hours he was there.
Yeah.
He didn't know what to do, and he didn't know what was going on. We invited him to play, and it was like the finale of a campaign we've been playing for a year, and he wanted to play, and I was like, oh, we could do a one-shot. And they're like, oh, no, we'll just throw him in the finale. And I'm like, I don't know. But it was a lot. It was a lot to handle, because by then, we're fighting a red dragon in the sky, and there's flying mechanics, and it's like, okay, I gotta use my key point to do feather fall, because I'm jumping off the back of this dragon to try and land on the other one, and he's just sitting there like,
what's going on right now? Yeah.
Can my character, am I allowed to say something? And it's like, yeah, you can say something, but we only have 6 seconds. This is your turn. Go. And he's like, I don't know what's happening. Oh man. So I think.
So don't do that. So don't do that. Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't recommend it.
That's a cautionary tale right there.
Oh, well, that leads on to another question. You've just brought up another question I'd love to ask you.
Yeah.
But I don't want to take over your stream, because you guys were doing a really good job. So if Mark's happy for me to ask you these questions, I'll keep asking them. And if he doesn't, I'll just sit here quietly, and hopefully people who follow my channel will come and watch your stuff, even if not during the live stream, later on, simply because my face is here. I'll just go do this.
It's like he's frozen there for a second.
And freeze frame.
Yeah. So freeze frame. So Mark will let me know, because he's supposed to be in control of this, not me.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask Logan. So your guys that went off and started their own, like they did their own. So how fast from player to DM? How long of time was that in between? You think roughly?
I had one friend that within a few months, like 2 or 3 months, he was ready to DM, and he did very well. And he started off doing a one-shot with us and with me, and kind of would ask me questions and like, hey, I'm trying to put this together. Can you help me learn how to DM? And he did a one-shot, and he did it with us, and it was really fun. And then he felt comfortable to go out and do it. But I told him, like, read the books, know the basics of the rules. Like, don't take yourself too seriously. Like, you can do this. And I think the less pressure you put on being a DM, because people are going to want to try things. They're going to invite their friends to play with them. But the less you make it seem like, oh, I know everything about D&D. I'm the only one that can be DM. I invited them. Like, when you guys feel comfortable and you want to try it, ask me, and I'll help you set up a one-shot, and we'll get you running the games.
Right.
And over the 2 years that we played out there, by the end, I wasn't DMing. They were all taking turns, and I could just play and then be all my fun characters. Like, it was a pretty quick turnaround. And I think what really helped is they went out and did homework. They watched great YouTube channels like How to D&D and Dungeon Class to learn things. I had one friend who's like came back to me. He's like, I have a problem. I'm like, what's up? He's like, I watched some Matt Colville this weekend. And I'm like, oh, he's got a great channel, but he talks really fast. He gets a lot of information. Do you have any questions? He's like, yeah. I had questions, but then I just kept watching videos, and I watched over 20 hours of Matt Colville this weekend. I don't even know what D&D is anymore. But
to be fair though, Matthew Colville is talking about very advanced stuff.
That's next level. Yeah. But I mean, he branched out. He watched a lot of different channels. But I think when they do the homework, they kind of learn the way that they can learn. Because if you think you're going to be able to teach it all, like I know I couldn't teach it all. They had to go out and learn it for themselves. They had to check out different sources and read the books and.
Right. That's funny. No, that's encouraging though. To know, I'm just mesmerized the idea that it's like you taught some people and then they went out and started DMing, and I think that's excellent. That's kind of what you want, and for them to take over. We kind of made it a point. It's kind of in our game is kind of encourage everyone to give a turn. There's something about I think everyone should have that experience of DMing so they can kind of see what it's like on the other.
the same with my home group. I can't apply that to public games. When I was running public games, I don't do that now. I just don't have time. But with my home game, just about everybody in the group has run a campaign and had at least a year in the DM chair. So it's
wow.
And it's the healthiest way to go.
Sorry, I got Adam's wanting to come on here as well, but I'm trying to figure out how to get his email in here.
While you're doing that, I will keep asking Logan.
That sounds like a great idea.
Logan talking as much as
Bring
possible.
It on, Fred. I agree.
Okay, so my next question for you is, when you're dealing with new people, whether they be kids or adults, and you've had a lot of experience with kids, sort of what level would you start?
First level is really easy. It's really vanilla, because a level 1 fighter, there's not a lot of mechanics you got to keep track of versus a level 10 wizard, all the different spell components. And, if your armor's class sucks, but you can cast mage armor, which is this level spell. And you have all these, that's a lot to, I don't know. Level 1's pretty vanilla. You can go through and do a lot of stuff. I started my friends, though. I started them at level 5. And I don't know why I wanted to do that. But I almost wanted to drop them in a little stronger so they could get the sense of this is what I have to look forward to. Look at all these things I could do. So when they had the little 1 hit point, 10 armor class goblins, they were smacking them around. I'm like, oh my gosh, my character can do all these things. And when bigger characters came around, bigger bad guys came around and really threw down on them, then they're like, okay, now I need to level up. Now I need to pay attention. I don't know why I did level 5. That could have gone so wrong.
I have actually a question to break that down for you a little bit, and that is, are your friends, are they all right with complexity?
I think this group, yes.
Right.
They were
how old were they? If they're already all right with complexity, sort of roughly how old were your friends when you doing this?
They were my age. So at the time, I was 22 when I was running it with them for the very first time. Yeah. And we're all in our 20s or in college. So, I mean, it's kind of, you come out of lectures and stuff for hours, and D&D doesn't seem very hard.
No, it's college too.
Yeah.
College is, you got to put work in, and you've got to understand complicated things. Mm-hmm. What about the younger kids? You said you've run games with younger kids. What years? Sort of like 5, 6 upward?
I have done games mostly with teenagers, young adults, teenagers into kind of my kind of college age. Mark's probably had more experience than me running for little kids.
7-year-old. 7 was the youngest.
Yeah,
I've had 5, 6,
Whoa,
7,
that's
8,
good.
9. And it's a very different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
As you know, Mark.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What level would you go with if you were running for really young?
Oh, level 1 for sure. Yeah. And here's the thing: the more the levels, the more complicated, because you have all the different spells, you have all the different features. Level 5, they start getting really good, awesome stuff, but it starts to get more complicated for them, and you want to keep it as simple as possible. And I would always start with level 1 with teaching little kids in particular. In fact, I would use that with anybody level 1. Yeah, for all those reasons.
Wow.
I always did. I always started with level 1. Just because.
Level 5 is just mean. I'm just saying.
Yeah. It was pretty mean. It was pretty mean. Yeah.
Well, but that situation, Logan, actually makes sense because you're dealing with people who understand complexity, and they're not that young. They're in their 20s. They can probably deal with that level of complexity.
Yeah.
Right.
But when you're dealing with somebody who isn't necessarily going to college or never gone to college, and or you're dealing with kids, it's a different story. Mm-hmm. And I never used. I know a lot of people, they'll start and they'll say, "I want to play a wizard," and you're like, "Oh dear, oh dear." Yeah. Starting off, you want to play a wizard, and but I want to cast spells, and so I would always, if I could not convince them otherwise, because I knew we'd have to explain a lot, I'd always steer them towards the Warlock and the Sorcerer.
Right.
Warlock would be my top choice simply because there's so few spells that you can cast.
Yeah, and it's mostly cantrips, so you can just
Eldritch Blast. The whole time. Mage hand and screw with the world. And it's nice and simple. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. I think for me, I don't know. I'm not really scared by magic users. Magic can be really complicated, and I know it can be really intimidating. But I had a friend who wanted to play an arcane trickster, which is that's personally my favorite class. But we started him off at level 5, so he already had some spells. He already had to manage his melee things that he could do as a rogue. But he picked it up really quickly. And I think the biggest thing is that he came in, he's like, can I do magic or is that too advanced? I'm like, you can do it. Like, if I can learn it, you can learn it. So I think if they want to do magic, you just got to be patient. But I don't know, 5e is set up in such a way that, like, if you just read the book and take some time with it. I had him read before we came to our first session. But I think you can just kind of pick it up. Mm-hmm. But it is intimidating for sure. And the kind of nice thing about level 1 is that they only get like 3 spells, you know?
Right.
Like 3 spell slots and just a few spells to do. It's kind of the perfect little sandbox to practice with low level stuff.
Right.
I was wondering too. Sorry, Mark.
No, go ahead.
I was wondering, did you use pre-generated characters? Because a lot of the game stores, I would use a pre-generated character, particularly if I had somebody who was stepping in for the very first time, never built a character themselves.
I did a pre-generated character the other day from when we played with our friend. Just one because, you know, they got there kind of late and we wanted to get going right away. So I just had a bunch of pre-generated level 1s and just randomly passed them out. But for that very first game with those friends I had them read through the classes and take their time, and whatever spoke out to them conceptually, like, oh, you know, I really want to sneak around, or oh, I really want to be a tank and just destroy people, you know, then it's like, okay, I had them describe kind of the character they wanted to play, and then we just went with it because they're invested in, like, I want to be a tank. It's like, okay, then you're going to probably be a barbarian. If you just want to run out and deal damage and just like hack through people, then you're going to be a barbarian. And because he was invested, he took the time to read the book, to read the mechanics with rage, to study, like, can I have 2 weapons? Like, yeah, but there's rules for having 2 weapons. There's the dual wielder, like you can take that as a feat. There's like an offhand attack you can do in your bonus action. He's like, okay, I'll study up. So because there's a character he wanted to play, he took the time to learn the mechanics. And for a while, they were kind of like, I know how to be a barbarian perfectly, but I've never done spells. Like, I have no idea how to cast a spell. And we had to kind of start over every time they made a new character within one-shots. But I never did pre-generated characters except for a few times. I normally try to encourage people to take ownership of the character because it's easier to get them to do the homework. So...
yeah, I like that. That's good stuff. So I'm hearing, you know, pre-generated characters might be a good way to go, especially for new people. Kind of play it by ear. Maybe get a read for how maybe like someone, you know, like looks like they're going to love this game. Maybe they love creating characters. I mean, I've known people that love playing like Skyrim. They just create characters over and over again. Yeah, they just love creating characters, you know. So maybe they want to actually do that, but that can be a slow, cumbersome, boring process maybe for someone who's new. So maybe that's not for everybody. So probably more times than not, that would be the way. Oh, it looks like we got Adam in here. I'm going to have Adam join us here.
Sure. You know, one of the things I used to get new people to do, because in this game store, you can't have like a 0 session. Hi, Adam. How's it going?
Hey, Adam.
I can't see the back of my wall. Where? Go that way. But, no, come this way.
Yeah, your green screen.
Yeah, my green screen.
Pay no attention to the man behind the screen there.
So I used to get them when they were like, no, I don't want to use a pre-generated character. I want to make my own character. And you're in a game store. It's a bit different when you're in your own home game because you have like a 0 session or character building session, or they just build them at home.
Yeah.
What I would do is I would encourage them to use a phone app. There was a phone app called, was it 5th edition character sheet?
Right.
And at the time, back in 2014, that was the go-to. We just got them to use that particular app, and then of course now we've got D&D Beyond and a whole bunch of other things that you can use.
Yeah.
And you can do that really quickly. Those phone apps, you can build a character if you pick the right one in about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So while everybody's setting up, they've built the character, it's ready to go. They've got all the information there on their phone, and you're sweet as. So that's another really good way of dealing with new people playing the game and they want to build a character, and you don't want to have to explain it all to them because you just don't have time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we got Adam here, and I see he had an interesting comment here earlier. Your first 5e game was a little over. You had to start at level 7 for Tomb of Annihilation.
That is
brutal. It was.
Talk about trial by fire.
Yeah. Took me a little while to get through the character sheet for that because there's so many things you got to pick out. Luckily, not too many spells because that takes the longest to look through if you're not very familiar with everything.
Yeah, you had to read that big long thing. Like, what does this thing do? How much the range? Do I need spell components? All that. Yeah, that's a.
Yeah.
And that brings up a good point. Range, spell casters, using casters for new players, that can be a challenge in general. Yeah. So, Adam, you were talking about this game. You were talking about the Arneson. What's this play style? Arneson's Blackmore game. What was you? I'm sorry. What were you? Can you expound on that?
All right. So basically, I frequent Reddit, and I came across the OSR Reddit page, and people kept mentioning this free Kriegspiel Renaissance. And so they explained it. It's like Dave Arneson's original Blackmore game before it became a campaign setting for OD&D.
Yes.
And it's very free form. It's using basically you only use dice mechanics if needed. If the referee were to find what you want to do plausible, then they just allow it. The main philosophy of Free Kriegspiel is that the referee is a trusted expert.
Okay.
It harkens back to old German and Prussian war games called Kriegspiels.
Oh, okay.
And they basically had giant tomes of rules for their Kriegspiel games, and often the abstractions got in the way of the officers trying to run the games for the cadets. And so they developed a more free-form way where everything was in the hands of the experienced officer, and he made the rulings rather than following a big tome of rules.
Yeah, the fact that it's not just a rule book. It's a tome of rules.
Yeah, right. You've got a lot of rules when it's a tome of rules.
Yeah, that's intimidating. And I love that idea of having, I think you called it a referee, to like kind of someone to just help.
That's old school right there.
Yeah, just help be there. And we've mentioned having co-DMs and.
Actually, for the original war game context of the term, it was an umpire. Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, I remember it was an OD&D had you could have 10, they had a whole thing where they had what it was a DM, and then you had these not referees in the name for them. Yeah, they had, for every 10 players they'd have a caller or something. I'm reading these things going, because it said you could have a group of anywhere from 1 to 100. And I was like, what the heck would that be? But so the DM would run, you have all these, you branch it out, and you have one person for every 10. And you have these I guess it's callers, but then that person was kind of they ran the little groups of 10. I'm like, good grief, that sounds way complicated. But I guess it harkens from the tabletop mini kind of, because that was the root of how it started. But I was reading that, I was like, well, it's like those chainmail rules, I think was what I was looking at, and I was like, man, that's some crazy stuff there. A lot of people in one room for one thing. That's like the whole store playing one game.
Everything froze for a sec.
Hello. Freeze frame.
Do you know there's the two creators of Dungeons and Dragons both had very different styles of play. I don't think a lot of people know that unless you do a bit of research and historically. Gary Gygax is much more mechanical than Dave Anderson. Honestly.
Yes.
Though I've read privately that they were much more similar. Like that Gygax only ran like a modified version of original D&D. Right. And also they used like full body GM screens.
Oh yeah, that was strange. I heard about that recently. I was like, what the?
Yeah. Have that omniscient voice of God effect. Yeah. I mean, the little screens we have are fine, but just that idea of not even being seen to do a game. Can you imagine having like loudspeakers and you're just in the other room and you see the orc armies coming towards you? Like, how intimidating would that be?
Oh, Logan, you've just presented people with a way of changing their voice without having to strain it. Just put your hands on your mouth, and there you go. You got a new.
Thanks, Overboard. Thank you very much. Thanks, Cujo.
Do you know? Can you imagine doing that sort of thing in Florida on a hot day with a big, huge DM screen,
giant screen
down in the basement?
I mean,
it wouldn't be cold enough down there.
Well, the first thing is we don't have basements because they get flooded the second we dig an inch into the ground.
That's right.
Yeah, we got too much water.
We go up, not down. Yeah, we go down. We're too much. Mm-hmm. You're underwater. So
yeah.
My imagination of a homemade full body DM screen would be like my brother has one of those pull aside like wooden curtains that you can set up. Yeah, just taking the back of that thing, getting your ball of yarn and just connecting all your different notes like some crazy, like they show in the movies.
Yeah, that's great. No, I appreciate it. Yeah. Well, thanks, Adam, and thanks for stopping by and sharing your ideas and coming on the stream. We appreciate having you, buddy, and keep on joining. I love your comments and your suggestions. Those are awesome. And so thanks for popping in. It's kind of brave to pop in on a live stream like this.
I definitely didn't expect it. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Adam. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you.
All right, so I see Doug from Nerdarchy joined in, which I'm pretty excited about. So Nerdarchy jumped in. So this is Doug. He's one of the lesser-known guys from Nerdarchy, but I've been conversing with him pretty much. Everyone kind of knows Dave and Ted, but Doug, would you say you're probably the brains behind the operation? They're not on here, so you can probably speak freely. But he says I like to walk through character creation, give them a little mechanical and narrative illustration for each part, playing like the good old basics process. Yeah, good stuff. Stuff. Yep. Good suggestion.
Absolutely. Got to do that eventually. You do have to work with him with the concept of character creation at some point. But I always like the idea of not scaring them with the character creation process because it's terrifying. And it's complicated and it takes a long time. So sometimes it's better to get them by playing first and get them hooked, and then you deal with all of the hard work later.
Right. Yeah, so this is a good point. GM describes scenario, you imagine your character there and describe what you like to do. Then we'll discover the results. I love to instill the sense that they imagine their character in the world. We'll discover the story together. I love that. We talk a lot about, sometimes DMs, they feel like it's their story and they're trying to get the story across and they stumble all over the players and just railroad, oh, no, you need to go do this and all. Yeah. But discovering the story together, I think that's a really, really good point. Good stuff. Yeah.
I think that's my personal favorite thing of D&D is that collaborative storytelling process. That my major in school is film. And it's more specifically the storyteller's track. So, the script writing, the storyboarding, all that concept design is like, that's my thing. And so for me, the best part of D&D has got to be that kind of that ability to be creative and be artistic and to go on this emotional journey with this character that you make up right here, you know?
No,
There's just
I agree.
Kind of cool about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So all right. So how would you tell how would you tell the DM that they're stomping all over in one story? How would you?
I think whatever you have in your hand, if you just kind of huck it at them, you know, whether it's your dice, whether it's a drink, you know, whatever, just good shot to the head with a flying projectile. One of those, yeah. I think.
Oh,
yeah.
So Doug was saying in chat that his job, where he fits in, and apparently our key grip says this is her job, corralling Gonzo and Mark. That's my job now, Logan. So yeah, you guys get to corral the two of us. We appreciate that. You know, we're not quite celebrities yet, but I the term handler always intrigued me. You know, and I'm like you're some kind of an animal and you have to be intrigued, but you don't have to look much further than Gonzo and I to see the animal reference. That does work, I suppose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't she use knives? I'm sure.
Oh, she's not above using knives. No.
I think the biggest thing is she's like, if she had real life stats, she's got like expertise and intimidation. She doesn't have to say a thing. It's just her presence alone.
Yeah.
Is so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know she's listening to this, and I know I'm gonna have to like beeline it to a safe place.
You're gonna have to run and hide, probably. Yeah, yeah. I'll show you.
Yeah. But luckily, in real life, one of my stats is gonna be my stealth. I'm sneaky. So
it's not going to help you if you live stream with the camera pointing at you in the room you're currently in, though, is it?
Yeah, but I got a window here. I'll be good. Yeah.
I have another question for you, Logan.
Yeah, go ahead.
If Mark's all right with that.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Okay. I was curious because one of the things that tends to happen is that eventually players will ask questions. Okay. Sometimes they'll ask a question you know the answer to. Sometimes they won't. How do you really sort of approach answering a question? Yeah, there. I told you, mate.
Man, that was stealthy.
You're on a live stream.
That needs to somebody click that. Just make happened. That a GIF of just whack.
Yeah, that just happened. Logan got disciplined right on camera. That's good.
There's the hand there. I'm sorry, Fred. I just got to recover from this concussion. What was your question again?
How do you deal with people who ask you questions, whether you know the answer or don't know the answer? And usually their questions, when they do ask questions, usually aren't narrative. They're usually mechanical because that's the thing that they really struggle with. A lot of people naturally start to remember as, you know, what I did as a kid when I played, the narrative stuff, they start to work that out. But it's the complicated mechanical stuff. How do you deal with questions?
I think if it's something that I know the answer to, like right off the bat, like especially with newer players where it's like, how do I know what my bonus to hit is going to be? Well, it's going to be like, if it's going to be this modifier in your proficiency. If it's something quick that I can share at the table, and if it's something quick that maybe I think every player needs to hear it, like yes, guys, you do need to remember XYZ. If I can answer it in a sentence or two, then I'll just pause and say it. If they're asking a lot of questions, sometimes I'll ask them like, hey, let's get to a stopping point, and then I can address certain things. If it's other stuff that they're asking mechanical about and I don't know it, I'll just straight up say like, I'm not exactly sure. Let's just have you roll for it. And after the game, we'll go back and we'll look over it. And a lot of times I've done that with my friends, and like in game, it's like, there's like totally mechanics for this. I would not have gotten body slammed by this troll if I would have known there's a mechanic to escape a grapple instead of me just rolling a d20 and seeing if I got lucky, So yeah, it depends on the question. If it's quick, just answer it. And if not, then ask them to wait, and they understand, you're at a table with lots of people trying to get through a game, and you can just put them on hold.
Quick and clear, man. Quick and clear is always good.
Yeah.
There's no good way of putting this without blocking
No,
somebody here.
just block me out. You only need my eyes. No, go back to the other thing.
That was like, what
now
the heck? Right.
my smalls and part of my eyes.
So the question was, when playing with new, I like this. That's a good point that DMG Info had. Yeah. When playing with new players, don't explain the rules. Just play and ask them what they want to do. Tell them what you want to roll. Allow them to discover the rules rather than preaching them up front. Yeah, that would be the preferred way, I think, if you could just start playing, and actually 5e makes it so easy to just kind of do that. And you could kind of do a quick little theater of the mind kind of introduction. And actually, you don't have to, you could do like a one-shot kind of thing, give them a taste from it, and then start talking about, those roles I was having you do, that was this, and that would be, I've always felt like when you're learning something new, if you can make it fun, and then it's not like a chore, it's not like work, and then at the end you go, wow, I totally learned something new, and then you get into it. But I can't imagine giving all that stuff up front and just killing the whole fun vibe. But that's a good point.
Mistakes. I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question for you. I'm going to keep directing them at Logan because Logan's far more photogenic than both of us, Mark. So
I know that's why we got him on. We had to have someone that's somewhat handsome.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you can't get the baby to do the live stream. You can't even talk.
We couldn't find that baby, but we tried, but it wasn't really talking much.
My question is, how do you deal with new players when they make a mistake? Whether they know they've made a mistake on their character sheet or made a mistake in game, or they don't know they made a mistake, but they did make a mistake, but somebody else at the table knows. I mean, there's a lot to unpack, but mistakes at the table gonna happen.
Mistakes at the table. Are you saying mistakes like in rules, like they add the wrong number or something?
Yeah.
If I sometimes I'll just straight up ask them, like, hey, can you walk me through how you did this? Can you like what'd you just roll? What'd you just add to this?
How come do you really have 8 spell slots? Really?
Yeah, it's like a big thing is spells. Like, oh, I want to cast Shatter, and it's going to hit everyone in the room. Well, it's a 60-foot room. Yeah, it says 60 foot right here. Like, oh, that's your range. What's the area of effect? Oh, it's 10 foot. I know we made that mistake and wiped out like 30 kobolds, which was really cool.
Yeah, but, teachable moment. That's a teachable moment,
Sometimes if it's not a big deal, if it's something like a quick fix, just kind of like with answering questions. If it's a quick fix, like, hey, like, and if I can kind of feel mistakes coming up, sometimes if it's like they keep doing really well rolling for something, it's like, okay, remember, like just generally to the table, remember these are the rules to how you get advantage. You can't just get it because you think you're in an advantageous spot in the fight. You know, there's actually mechanics behind advantage, so you don't get advantage on every hit.
Oh, darn.
Or rogues that get sneak attack on like if they get like 2 hits somehow, and they get sneak attack on every hit, and then they have an attack of opportunity to sneak attack. It's like, okay, remember.
So I thought this was a good idea. Sometimes people get intimidated by the dice. They're seeing these weird shaped dice, and they're used to the 6-sided dice. But what is all that, and how is that used, and why do we have it, and why do we even have a D12 if we don't even use it?
Oh, we do, but you got to have the right character.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But a lot of times, most people don't even get to use the 12. So yeah, that's a great point. Let them know what the dice is. I think that can be an intimidation factor. I think somebody had a question here. I think that was a really good one here. They didn't phrase it as a question per se, but I guess how to keep track of time as a DM. I think that's a. So I'm gonna throw this one out to Fred. Fred, I'm sure you're a good timekeeper and you are really on it. And you make sure every second of the game is being calculated. And
okay, so I don't know about other dungeon masters, but I got a fairly good idea that most dungeon masters, and I know I do, fudge the snot out of that. Players ask you far too many questions about time.
Yeah,
and you know that you're not tracking time like they think. You as a dungeon master, I track time like in blocks. I think of time as like half days or days, not minutes and hours, which often is what the players are thinking in terms of,
Sure.
or sometimes in seconds, and you're like, oh. So
Right.
I just make stuff up. I just make shit up. I just make it up.
Well,
it seems to me like, does that make sense? How long should that have taken to do? I really don't know. I'll just come make up a number and tell them that. And if they have an issue with it, then I'll just say, well, yeah, but you're not very good at this. That's what took so long.
Right. Yeah.
You know, or it's like, you know, you're playing as a half orc wizard and you're really concerned about the mechanics and logistics of time. Like, that's the most unbelievable part of this, or, you know.
Right. Well,
it's like encumbrance.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you hear things like a round takes 6 seconds, and you look at a spell and it lasts for an hour, and so I think I could see where the players start to think that, man, that DM is keeping track of all this stuff. You know, he must have some kind of calculator thing back there that's tabulating time.
Yeah,
no, we don't. Vast majority of us, no, I don't think. I'd be shocked if someone had that kind of time and was keeping track of all those little details. I mean, I'd take all the fun out of DMing, really.
Yeah, I think
that would kill it for me. Yeah, I couldn't do it. Yeah.
But also maybe like, oh, sorry, Fred, go ahead.
I always look at it like this, you know. I reassure my players that when they make mistakes, it's not a big deal. But I also reassure them when I make mistakes, it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, exactly.
You don't feel that way when you start DMing, but eventually you get to a point where you just don't care. I made a mistake. Okay, all right. Well, let's move on, shall we? And if it's really, really bad and you feel like, you know, you can't sleep at night, then you have to do something to compensate. I suppose you can.
So you have a fan with your answer there. Wisdom of experienced DM, when all else fails, makes stuff up. Yeah, there you go. All else fails.
I need that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, it just I mean, honestly, that, and actually that statement, seriously, to people who've not DM'd, I talk to people all the time that like I want to learn how to DM and I'm really nervous about it, or I see people on Twitter post like, I'm DMing a game for the first time. Does anybody have any advice? It's like, don't worry about it. I mean, you could royally mess this whole thing up and everyone still has a great time. I mean, honestly, it's not that big of a deal.
We just played a Halloween game, Mark. We played The Haunt 2 with you as a DM.
Yeah.
And one of our very first rooms we walk into, the main thing's divided up into 2 different floors.
Oh,
different enemies includes the different floors. And we go into our first room on the first floor, break through the floor, lead all the enemies into the second floor with a room full of more enemies, throw a rope up and climb out and start throwing things down and burn all the enemies. And
that wasn't part of the plan. Yeah, it kind of broke that idea.
Yeah, so I mean, what did you have to do to kind of?
I went with it.
I
went with it. I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I can't think of a real good reason to say no. I try to slow things down with some dex saving throws and some strength throws, and dang if they didn't make those rolls anyways. They rolled really high, so it was like, I guess this is happening, So I guess that's what's going to happen. It's meant to be. So
Mark had this beautiful, intimidating encounter set up, and I mean, like at the end, we were just sitting up. Like the rest of the characters taking a short rest and healing, and I was just sitting over the edge, like picking them off with my bow. And like I'm just gonna sit there and throw rocks at them. The zombies are, and I'm just like throwing rocks at them, making fun of them.
So I seriously thought, and actually, so for this particular thing, our key grip, Gary Gonzo she was assistant DM for this. She knew exactly what was happening. She knew that. And she and I both, I think, were thinking this is going to be death. She looked at me. She's like, "They're going to jump down in that, yeah, and they're going to be down in there. I know, yeah, with like 14 critters, and another bad thing, and they're taking 6 more things down with it. Yeah, this is bad. This is going to be a TPK, and you guys just kind of sidestepped that really nimbly.
So I was total monster kill.
Yeah, that totally went a different direction. I thought, oh, this is it. I guess this will be the end of the game right here. There's no way they're getting out of that. So that was clever, very clever.
It was pretty fun. My favorite part of that whole thing was we were down in that hole, And I'm like looking through my bag. I'm like, okay, I have a rope and a crowbar. I'll just make a quick little grappling hook, throw it up, roll it really high. But that wouldn't get everybody out because not everyone's good at climbing. So what does Ben do is he summons giant toads and carries the rest of them out on the back of these giant toads.
Yeah, so when you're DMing people like Logan and Ben, they both have the biggest imaginations, and they bend the game in ways that you will never think it'll go sometimes, and it's a lot of fun for a DM. I'm like, wow, okay, so that just happened. So yeah, that's what keeps me on my toes there, Fred. I gotta tell you, it's good stuff. All right, so we have some questions I want to address here. So I guess this is a question for DMs. How far does the sound of battle travel?
If there's a battle in the forest and no one else is around to hear it.
Yeah, I think it would depend on where it's at, you know? I mean, if it's in a cave and there's a lot of stone, that's going to travel far.
That's the, you done a bit of philosophy there, Logan. The falling tree.
Didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
It depends on the environment, doesn't it? There's no quick answer to that. It travels as far as the dungeon master decides it's going to travel.
And if you cast silence over the whole thing, then it doesn't really make a difference, does it?
It's not going to.
That's such a great,
you're going to hear nothing.
Oh, that's such a great spell. I could do a whole video on just how many ways you could destroy a DM's life with that spell.
I don't like the sound of this.
Yeah, well, I have thought of doing spell videos like that, and I'm not going to do that because I already have enough trouble with that sort of stuff as it is. So I don't. Yeah.
You don't want to encourage it?
No, my players would watch the video, and after they'd watched it, they would analyze it and figure out how to make my life more miserable than it was before. So
that is against me. Yeah, I could see that being Oh man, you got a tough crowd. They're always trying to mess with you.
Well, that's the problem, man. When you decide, I'm going to run a YouTube channel that teaches people how to dungeon master or play the game. You know, the people that know you and closest to you will support you. But then also, there's a few that are going to like, really? That's what you said in the video. Let's see what you actually do.
Right. Yeah. We give all these tips about be patient, explain rules to your players, and then they're going to come up like, okay, so my necromancer has raised an undead Tarask and I was using it as a mount. Can I do that, Fred? You know?
I currently have a player who does not need to actually sleep. They have managed to find a particular race and combined it with a warlock of all things, and they don't have to sleep.
Wow.
Still got to take a long rest, but they don't have to sleep during their long rest. And I was like, oh my god.
So there goes
really?
Like watches and nighttime surprises.
Yeah, they do all the watches, the whole thing.
I'll just sit there.
Yeah.
It's like an automaton kind of deal.
Yeah. Good times. Well, this has been a great chat there. I appreciate everyone joining us. We've gone over an hour and a half. This is the longest one I think we've done. Thank you, Fred, for joining us. This was kind of a surprise and last minute kind of thing. We're glad you joined us, and glad to have Logan on. We miss Gonzo a bit, but he's been pretty active in chat. So I think he's doing better than he's acting like he's doing. I'm just saying. But
right.
Yeah, I know. I like to mess with him. You know, kick a man while he's down, I guess. I don't know. I'm just kidding. No, I think he seems to be doing good. I'm glad he's in there because somebody needs to. It's hard keeping track of conversation here and conversation here, and so I appreciate having you guys here with me to kind of take the conversation and keep going as I talk to chat. And I appreciate that. So we had some really great ideas that were shared from chat, as well as Fred sharing some great ideas of how to deal with new players. As always, we want more people to play. As we often say, it floats all boats if everyone joins this game and plays. And we're glad to have him. Fred, where can people find you if they want to find your channel? If those people in chat haven't found you already, which I don't know what's wrong with them if they don't know about your channel. But
yeah,
where are you at?
That's all right. I'm on YouTube, How to D&D. It's a pretty easy channel to find. Do not get confused. I am not How to Dad. Okay, How to Dad is much more popular. It's a lot funnier, but I'm not How to Dad. So I don't teach you how to look after kids. I teach you how to play the game. And there's a whole bunch of little short videos on the basic core mechanics on my channel. You can find me at other places. I do have Facebook group and Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really spend a lot of time there. It's more the channel is where all the work gets done.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So definitely, he's done this a lot longer than we have. He's got a lot more videos. He has some great videos. He goes in detail. Books when they come out. I think one of the ones. Hats. And has great hats. Yeah. Yeah. There's that. This is just a taste of that. But you get more of the same and more. If you're not, also he does live streams every once in a while. So that's always good. So I'm glad to see that. So anyway, thank you for coming, Fred. I know it's not exactly 6:30 at night here for you. It's probably like 3 days ahead of us or some crazy thing like that. I don't know.
It's Tuesday, 2 p.m. or it's about 1:02 in the afternoon.
Okay.
And I should be sanding and painting my house, but I couldn't miss this.
That's why he wanted to come.
Yeah, very good, very good. So what are the lottery numbers, Fred, seeing as you're in the future? That would be really helpful. Right
lottery numbers. Well, I'm not going to do any good because I won't get that until they actually happen, because you can't go back in time, remember. You can only go forward. It's relative.
Oh, it is relative.
You can't go back in time like that?
What?
Hang on. I mean, Back to the Future, they didn't just drive to Australia.
No, Back to the Future, forget about that. Remember, Avengers has updated how time's actually supposed to work. So you can't actually change time. Yeah, we haven't figured out how to go back yet. Hey, thank you, Mark, for having me on.
Yeah,
and Logan, I'm really pleased that there's a new generation who clearly have a really good understanding of how to teach people how to play the game, and it's in good hands. Hopefully there's more like you.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there's more better than me, because I'm just kind of a pain to play with, as you can tell.
But, he's a lot of fun. He brings a lot of creativity.
A lot of fun.
All right, thanks, guys. And thanks for everybody for watching, and y'all take care. See ya.